She was given away to a poor suitor, unaware he was a billionaire in disguise. The sun dipped lazily over the skyline of Lagos, painting the sky with hues of gold and orange. In one of the wealthy neighborhood, proudly stood a beautiful duplex behind tall gates. It was the home of Chief Daniel, a respected businessman whose name carried weight in both social and business circles. Chief Daniel lived what many would call a blessed life. He had 2 wives, but unlike the usual stories of rivalry and bitterness, his household knew peace. His first wife, Ngozi, a quiet and graceful woman, had blessed him with a daughter named Charity. His second wife, Florence, bold and stylish, had also given birth to a daughter, Onioni. To outsiders, they are one big happy family. Even neighbors often whispered with surprise, "How can 2 wives live in the same house without chaos? God must have touched them." And indeed, Chief Daniel made it possible. He treated both women with fairness and ensured neither felt less than the other. At family dinners, laughter often filled the hall. Both girls giggled together in love. They were happy siblings. But deep in Florence's heart, a seed of envy slept quietly. She often wondered, why does my husband always praise Ngozi's daughter, Charity, more than my daughter Onioni? She would shake off the thought whenever Chief Daniel passionately admires her. Little did they know, the storm was coming, the kind that strips away laughter and leaves behind scars that last forever. One fateful evening, as the city roared with the usual traffic, Chief Daniel and Ngozi, his first wife, set out for a business dinner on the island, but they never returned home. When the call came, Florence's screams pierced through the compound as she heard the sad news. The words echoed in her ears like a curse. Accident, both dead on the spot. From that moment, everything changed. The next day, the compound that once echoed with laughter was wrapped in silence and mourning. Neighbors trooped in. The white canopy in front of the house bore the bitter symbol of loss, as relatives and friends came to pay condolences. Young Charity, barely 14, sat in one corner of the sitting room, her face pale and swollen from endless tears. Onioni, her sister, looked more sorrowful as she cried but could not understand the actual depth of what had just happened. Florence wept loudly, but her grief was more complicated than that of a widow. Her mind raced as she thought of her future. How do I manage this house alone? How do I raise these girls without my husband? When the burial was over and the sympathizers stopped coming, silence fell on the house once again. It was in that silence that Florence's heart began to harden. No longer cushioned by Chief Daniel's presence, her insecurities and envy rose to the surface like oil in water. She would sit at the living room, staring at Charity as the girl quietly did her homework. This girl is Ngozi's blood. If I don't put her in her place, she will outshine my daughter Onioni. No, not in this house. That night, Florence called her daughter into her room. Onioni, listen to me, Florence whispered, her voice sharp. From today, you are the princess of this house. Do you understand? Charity is not your equal. She is not even your sister. She is just the daughter of another woman. You must never allow her to be above you. Onioni blinked, uncertain. But Mummy, she is my sister and we used to play together. Keep quiet. Florence snapped. Play is over. She will serve you, and you will enjoy the life your father left behind. Do you hear me? Onioni nodded slowly, though she didn't fully grasp the weight of her mother's words. From the next day, the changes began. Florence barked. Charity. Who will sweep this compound? Who will wash these plates? Onioni cannot soil her hands with these dirty chores. Move quickly. Charity's eyes, heavy from lack of sleep, listened and obeyed without protest, for she had been taught to respect her elders. At first, she thought it was just the stress of mourning that made her stepmother harsh. But weeks turned into months, and it only grew worse. While Onioni lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone, Charity would be busy cleaning the compound, washing the dishes till her fingers burned without complaint. Whenever wealthy visitors who were either late Chief Daniel's friends or business associates came, Florence would put her own daughter Onioni forward, well-dressed, polished, glowing with the best treatment. But she made sure Charity remained out of sight, mostly busy cooking food in the kitchen instead. In no time, neighbors began to whisper, "Why is Chief Daniel's second wife Florence treating Charity like a maid? I think since the death of Chief Daniel and his first wife, Florence has become something else." Upon all the whispers, Florence didn't care. In her eyes, she was building her oniony for greatness while crushing Charity into dust. But little did she know, every chore, every punishment, every tear Charity shed was shaping the girl into something stronger. And every comfort she handed oniony was turning her into something weaker. The irony of fate had just begun its slow dance. Years passed. The house of Chief Daniel no longer felt like the home it once was. What had been a place of joy and unity had become a battlefield of inequality. Charity was no longer the carefree girl who once sat by her father's side, drawing little flowers in her notebooks while he teased her. Instead, she had grown into a resilient young woman, her hands rough from endless chores. Her mornings began before sunrise. She would sweep the compound, prepare breakfast, and ensure everything was in order. One particular afternoon, as she hurried out, Florence stopped her. "Where do you think you're going?" her stepmother's voice rang out. "To extra lesson, Ma," Charity replied softly. "Extra lesson? Did you scrub the bathrooms? Did you iron Oniony's clothes? Hey, do you want my daughter to be late because of you?" Charity lowered her head. "No, Ma. I will do it now." Oniony, sitting lazily on the couch with her phone in hand, rolled her eyes. "Mummy, let her go. She's already late." Florence shot her daughter with a sharp look. "Late for what? Charity's books will not feed her in the future. She should learn her place." Charity swallowed her tears and obeyed. By the time she finished all the tasks, the extra lesson was over. On the other hand, Oniony grew up with every comfort. She never lifted a finger in the house. Her clothes were always neatly pressed, her shoes polished by Charity, her meals served on time. While Charity studied hard every day, Oniony spent her time scrolling through social media, watching fashion shows, and gossiping with friends over the phone. Charity never had any protection. She bore punishments quietly, worked harder, and grew sharper. Life had taught her early that no one was coming to save her except herself. But deep inside, Charity whispered to herself, "One day, things will change. Life cannot always remain like this." She didn't know it yet, but destiny was listening. Time flew. Before anyone realized, both girls had grown into young women. Charity carried herself with grace and quiet dignity. Years of discipline had sculpted her into a hard-working, resilient young woman. Her beauty was the kind that did not shout, it glowed, humble yet captivating, like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Oniony, on the other hand, was the picture of glamour. Always in trendy outfits, nails polished, wigs styled, and perfumes that filled every room she entered. To strangers, she looked like the perfect daughter of a wealthy home. But beneath the gloss, she was shallow, entitled, and helpless at the simplest tasks. Florence saw all this, but in her eyes, Oniony was her pride, her investment. She often sat with her daughter in the evenings, plotting the future. "My dear," she would say, "forget about these small boys running around with cars on hire purchase. I will make sure you marry a man of real class, a billionaire if possible. You will never suffer in this life." Oniony smiled dreamily. "Mummy, I know. My social media followers keep telling me I look like a rich man's wife." Florence chuckled. "And they are right. Leave Charity with her books and chores. She can go and marry a poor teacher for all I care. You, my jewel, you are destined for the high places." Charity would bit her lips but said nothing. She had long stopped expecting kindness. She had accepted her place, but still, her heart sometimes wondered, why does she hate me so much? Then one afternoon, everything began to shift. A sleek black SUV drove into the compound, its engine humming like a song of wealth. A well-dressed young stepped out. His name was Kenneth Obasi, the heir to a booming construction empire, a man whose name rings bell in the business world. Florence rushed out with a wide smile. "Ah, Mr. Kenneth, you are welcome." Kenneth nodded politely. His eyes scanned the compound until they landed on Charity, who was bent over a bucket, washing Onioni's clothes as instructed by Florence. But something about her calm poise caught his attention. When they all sat down, Florence, with a smile, started a conversation. "So, Mr. Kenneth, what brings such an important man to our humble home?" Kenneth cleared his throat and smiled. "I have seen your daughter several times, and after inquiring, I learned she is Chief Daniel's child. I came today with serious intentions. I want to take her hand in marriage." Florence's heart leaped. She turned to Onioni. "Oh, my darling, she is right here." Onioni blushed with a smile. But Kenneth's eyes did not follow. He was actually referring to Charity, whom he saw outside washing clothes. "No, I am talking about your daughter I saw outside," he said firmly. "She is the one I came for." The room froze. Onioni gasped. Florence's smile collapsed into shock. "Ha!" Florence stammered. "You mean Charity?" "Yes," Kenneth replied with conviction. "There's something about her humility, her presence. I believe she is the wife I've been searching for." Florence's mind raced like a storm. Rage and panic fought inside her. How dare this man ignore my Onioni for that girl? No. Never. Over my dead body. But outwardly, she forced a smile. "Of course, Mr. Kenneth. You must give me a little time. We will discuss as a family and get back to you." Kenneth nodded. "I understand. I will return soon." With a gentle smile he rose and left. The moment he left, Florence's true colors burst out. "God forbid," she shouted. "Over my dead body will that girl take what belongs to you, Onioni. Never. Do you hear me, Onioni?" Onioni's face was red with jealousy. "Mummy, he didn't even look at me. That man is rich, handsome, perfect. How can he choose her over me? Don't worry, my jewel. He will not have her. Leave it to me. I will make sure Kenneth marries you. Charity will never know what hit her," Florence assured her. Charity, standing in the kitchen, knew from that moment her stepmother would not rest until she destroyed her chance at happiness. And she was right. She felt her stomach tighten with fear and she cried. The days after Kenneth's visit were tense in the household. Charity walked around the backyard quietly, her heart pounding whenever she remembered the way Kenneth had looked at her with sincerity, not the hungry eyes of men who usually chased beauty. For the first time in years, hope had brushed her heart. But Florence was restless. She could hardly sleep. At night, she paced her bedroom. And Onioni could not sleep too. "Mummy, what if Kenneth doesn't come back?" Onioni asked one night, her voice trembling. "He will," Florence said sharply, her mind already racing with schemes. "And when he does, he must never see Charity as a wife again. Do you hear me?" Onioni nodded slowly, then whispered, "But how?" Florence's lips curved into a serious face. "Leave it to me." Kenneth returned exactly 1 week after. The same black SUV rolled into the compound. And once again the neighbor whispered, "Ha! That rich man keeps visiting Florence and her children. Who is he coming for in that house?" one of them asked. This time, Florence was ready. Before Kenneth arrived, she had locked Charity inside the storeroom at the back of the house. "You will not embarrass us today," she hissed, slamming and locking the door. While Charity pleaded, "Mama, please, let me out. He came for me, not Onioni. Why are you doing this?" "Shut your mouth." Florence spat. "You are a maid in this house. Do you think I will watch you marry a billionaire while my own daughter rots? Foolish girl." Charity banged on the door, tears spilling down her cheeks, but her cries were drowned by the sound of Kenneth's car horn. Inside the living room, Onioni sat on the couch, dressed in a designer flowing gown, her hair styled by the best salon, her lips painted a glossy red. Florence beamed proudly beside her. Kenneth entered, his grey caftan hugging his broad shoulders. But immediately, his eyes scanned the room. He was disappointed. "Where is Charity?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Florence's smile didn't flinch. "Ah, my dear Kenneth, you must have been mistaken the other day. The girl you saw was Onioni, my jewel, my first daughter. She was simply not dressed well that afternoon, but here she is today." Kenneth frowned, his eyes narrowing. "No. I know who I saw. It was Charity." Florence let out a fake laugh. Kenneth, you are a busy man. Maybe the sun played tricks on you. Onione is Chief Daniel's daughter, the true princess of this house. Charity is just a distant relative who helps us. I could never give her hand in marriage to someone of your standard. Please, don't embarrass us. Onione raised her head, trying to look innocent. Good afternoon, Mr. Kenneth. Kenneth looked unsettled. For a moment, he seemed unsure. He had only spoken briefly to Charity, after all. Perhaps Florence was right? Still, something in his gut twisted. I want to see Charity, he said finally, his tone sharper now. Florence forced another laugh, masking her panic. Ah, she is not around. She traveled to the village to see some sick relatives. But please, don't waste your time on her. Onione is ready to be your wife. She has everything you need. Kenneth's jaw tightened. He stared at Onione, but the glow he had felt when he first saw Charity was missing. Still, he was a man under pressure. His family had been urging him to marry quickly, and Florence's insistence seemed convincing. That evening, Kenneth left the compound without taking a seat, promising to think about it. Florence wasted no time to celebrate. You see, the fish is already on the hook. Next time, he will come for you officially. As for Charity, she will marry a poor man if she's lucky. Onione giggled. Mummy, you are the best. In the storeroom, Charity's eyes were swollen from crying. She whispered to herself, so this is how they will steal my future. God, is there no justice left for me? Little did she know, justice was already on its way, disguised in the most unexpected form. The weeks that followed were heavy for Charity. Florence watched her like a hawk, ensuring she never had the chance to meet Kenneth again. Meanwhile, Charity buried herself in chores. Yet, in her heart, she prayed, God, give me my own destiny. Let me not die in this house as a slave. One Saturday afternoon, as she carried a basket of laundry, a voice stopped her. Excuse me, good afternoon. She turned and saw a man standing. He was dressed in dusty overalls, his shirt torn at the collar, his face darkened with sweat. He looked like a laborer straight from a construction site. Yes. Charity asked softly answered. The man smiled faintly. My name is Benson. I was directed here. I heard Chief Daniel's family stays here. Charity hesitated, clutching the basket. Chief Daniel was my father. He is late now. Benson nodded gently. I'm sorry for your loss. His eyes lingered on her face with a kind of calmness she was not used to. Actually, I was told he left 2 beautiful daughters. And I thought I should come and speak properly. Before Charity could respond, Florence's voice sliced through the air. Who is there? She stormed out, Onione following her. When Florence got close to the dusty man, she almost burst into laughter. And who are you? She demanded, placing her hands on her hips. Benson bowed slightly. Good afternoon, madam. My name is Benson. I am a laborer, but I work hard with my hands. I came to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Onione shrieked. Marriage? To who? Mummy, hear this poor ratto. From construction site to marriage proposal? Wonders shall never end. Florence sneered, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. Look at you. Dusty shoes, sweat dripping, and you dare to come here? Do you know who I am? My daughter is preparing to marry a billionaire. Billionaire. Benson's eyes shifted gently. Well, I did not come for her, he said quietly, nodding at Onione. Then, with surprising boldness, he moved closer to Charity. I came for her. The air went silent. Charity froze, the laundry basket still in her hands. Her heart skipped. Nobody ever chose her, she was invisible, the shadow of the house. Florence's mouth fell open in shock before twisting into cruel laughter. Ha! You mean Charity? That one? Perfect. Take her. Carry your fellow wretchedness and go. At least it will reduce my burden in this house. Yes, please, take our housemaid. She will scrub your clothes and cook your food till she dies. It suits her. Onione added. Charity's eyes lurked with Benson's steady gaze and something in his eyes said, Don't be ashamed. I see you. Slowly, she spoke, her voice trembling but clear. If you are serious, I accept. Florence laughed and mocked her more. Ehe. Here Onioni. Your stepsister has agreed to marry a laborer. What a perfect match. Onioni joined her. Mummy, this is the best news ever. While I ride in Range Rover, she will be pushing wheelbarrow with her husband. But Benson did not flinch. He simply smiled at Charity, nodding with respect. Thank you. You will not regret this. I will come back. He took his leave and walked away. As he walked, Florence called after him, still laughing. Don't forget to bring your wheelbarrow as bride price. Onioni, still giggling. Mummy, we have finally won. Charity is finished. But Florence's laughter soon turned into a wicked whisper. Yes, my daughter, while you marry Kenneth, she will disappear into the gutters with her laborer. And that will be the end of her story. If only Florence knew. Benson's dusty clothes were not a true reflection of whom he truly was. A few weeks later Benson returned to marry Charity. That morning, the air smelled different. The sun rose slow and kind. Benson came not with empty hands but with dignity in his steps. He was accompanied by his kinsmen. They were welcomed and offered seats. As the ceremony started, Charity, dressed in a well-fitted Ankara dress, with quiet hope in her eyes, moved through the gathered crowd with a cup of palm wine in her hand to find her husband, as tradition required. The ceremony was small but beautiful. The elders who joined them spoke simple words and blessed the couple. As she found him, Benson took Charity's hands and promised to love and cherish her. Charity promised to keep her eyes true and her voice soft when it mattered. Some guests whispered and shook their heads. A laborer marrying Chief Daniel's daughter like a housemaid? Some questioned. When Benson and Charity left Chief Daniel's house that evening, Florence stood at her gate dressed like a queen and spat out the words she had practiced. Go. Go and scrub floors elsewhere. Don't forget to bow when you pass by our Range Rover. Charity turned once. She looked at the house where she had been made small, at the woman who had taught her bitterness, and then she looked away. She did not shout. She only stepped forward, holding Benson's hand. For the first time in her life, someone chose her. That choice felt like a small coronation. They moved into a rented flat. Benson did not promise Charity riches, he promised love, honest work, provision, and respect. Those promises were enough for her. Most times, Benson would whisper stories about his childhood, about the sea he once saw, about a father who taught him the value of dignity. Charity told him about her mother, about the songs Chief Daniel used to sing. They were ordinary stories, stitched together. They built a life like two skilled hands sewing a single strong cloth. To the world, Benson and Charity did not own Range Rovers or mansions, but they owned warmth. Meanwhile, in Chief Daniel's home, a different life moved too. Onioni's wedding to the rich suitor Kenneth was about to take place. She wore a dress that shimmered like a river at noon. Kenneth, the rich suitor, arrived in convoy of his kinsmen, to pay Onioni's bride price and take her as a wife. And Florence was all over the place with shoulders high, bragging of her daughter's choice of a wealthy and influential suitor as a husband. In the months that followed, Benson worked tirelessly outside in the sun to put food on the table. At home he never looked at Charity as a servant. To him she was a woman who had been given no throne, and he would make one for her, not with gold, but with choice. One afternoon, a truck with the logo Nwankwo Holdings rumbled past Benson and Charity on the road. The workers on the truck waved at Benson with so much excitement as if they had seen their boss. Charity's eyes witnessed it. "Who are they?" she asked. Benson only smiled and said, "Some people I know." His eyes grew distant. That night, over dinner, he took Charity's hands. "My wife, there is something I would like you to know about me. My name is Benson Nwankwo," he said. He said it like a man telling a neighbor his real name, not like a soldier revealing a secret. "I am not poor." Charity blinked. "Benson Nwankwo? But you told me you were just a laborer." "Yes, I am a laborer," he said softly, "but I am more." "How?" she asked. "My father, Chief KK Nwankwo, built roads and houses. I grew up in fancy rooms, but I left that life behind. I wanted to know the hands that build the world. I wanted to know people who wash their plates with tired hands and still sing. Then I came down here as a laborer to find a woman who would choose me, not my name. Charity's chest swelled with a strange mixture of joy and fear. Why hide it? You deceived me. Benson looked at her with a tired honesty. I am sorry if you feel that way. Wealth gives people reasons to test a heart. I wanted to see if your heart was yours. I wanted to know if you would marry a name or a man. She breathed like someone who had been underwater and finally reached the surface. You saw me wash clothes, scrub floors like a maid in my father's house, and yet you asked me to marry you. I saw how you swept the courtyard with your whole soul, he smiled. I saw how you hid your hunger behind a smile, and I knew then I had to be your man. Charity smiled. Benson Nwankwo, she said, as if the name itself were a blessing. It suits you. A few days later Benson took Charity to his father, who also came with him as one of the poor kinsmen to marry her. His father Chief KK Nwankwo was pleased to have Charity as a daughter-in-law, and she was well received. After revealing his true identity to Charity, they moved to Benson's mansion, and started a new luxury life as couple. Maids served and Charity was referred as a queen of the house. Benson did not parade his name. Rather he used it to open doors when it mattered. And he treated Charity like a real queen. Meanwhile, her stepsister's husband Kenneth and his empire glittered all over the city billboards. He had built luxury hotels like palaces in several locations, signed contracts with worth millions in dollars, and entered into deals with people whose names meant influence. He gave interviews and laughed with anchors on press conferences. But money that grows too fast on wet and untested soil can slide. A small whisper turned to a rumor: some of Kenneth's contracts had been fraudulent. A few suppliers declared missing payments. An accountant, frightened, passed a folder of papers to a man who cared enough to read them. The man was Benson. He did not act like a man seeking revenge. He acted like a man who could not ignore the truth. When he opened the folder, his face stayed calm. Paper after paper showed inflated invoices, shell companies, and funds routed to unknown accounts. Men had been stolen from, workers unpaid, material suppliers defrauded. Benson walked to his father's office with the papers and a heavy heart. He briefed him of his findings and left. Chief KK Nwankwo looked through the lines himself and did not frown. Instead, he put a call through to the security agents to pursue the fraud case. The city watched as the shiny towers that had been Kenneth's pride came under suspicion. Men with badges read him his rights. He was arrested for fraud, money laundering, and abuse of trust. Florence sat at a breakfast table of silver and glass and watched the news with trembling fingers. Onioni's face, usually bright with makeup and light, went pale. Neighbors who used to bow to them whispered in suspicion. Kenneth's cars and houses were impounded. The bank froze his accounts. The party that had once been endless folded like a paper fan. And Onioni, his wife, was left with nothing. When the court day came, the judge read passages and callers in the press read more. The fall was not sudden, it was the long, slow collapse of a house of cards. He stood in the dock, no longer the charming man on billboards, but a man who had chosen greed over people. Kenneth was convicted. The sentence was heavy, the kind that leaves a man's name tarnished forever. Florence couldn't believe her eyes over the verdict. The pages that had once written about Onioni's wedding now wrote of her silence. Charity watched the news with no joy. Justice had come, and it had a bitter flavor. She did not celebrate the downfall of a family. When the storms had settled, the city smelled like fresh earth. Men who had been wronged collected what small reparations were possible. Benson's name did not rise in boasting. Instead, it rose in gratitude. People who had once been stepped on now worked and received payments without delay. Florence knocked on doors she had once entered with keys of pride. She wore no perfume now that could hide her shame. Onioni, who had practiced smiles for cameras, could no longer find one. One morning, the house where Charity had once been a slave was put up for sale on auction for accumulated unpaid debts by Florence. Charity heard about it and told her husband Benson. He looked at her with the same steady calm he had shown since the day he met her by the house carrying the laundry basket. "We can buy it," he said, simply. "But I want to ask you what you want us to do." Charity thought of the years she had scrubbed floors until her hands were rough. She thought of the humiliations, and of the small joys, the songs the late Chief Daniel used to hum, the way the sun on the veranda felt on early mornings. She thought of her mother and the memories. "Buy it," she said at last. "We will turn it into a center, a place where those who have been abused can find shelter. Let it become a home for healing and hope." Benson's eyes shone. "As you wish, my queen," he said, and they both smiled because Charity could not help it. She liked the sound of the word, my queen. They bought the house, repainted it, and converted it to a center for the less privileged, named Charity Nwankwo Foundation. Florence, who could not stand the shame and humiliation, left the city with her daughter Onioni, who had lost everything, including her husband, who was sentenced to prison. Onioni found work in the new town in a bakery, and there, without cameras and without a name to protect, she learned how harsh life can be. Sometimes she thought of her mother, and sometimes she thought of Charity, the girl she had mocked. Years passed. Benson's and Charity lived in peace and harmony. On one cool evening, years after she first walked out of Florence's gate, Charity stood with Benson reflecting on their journey. "Did you ever think you would be here today?" he asked. "No," she said. "But I always prayed that I would not die a slave." Benson smiled. "You were never a slave, Charity. You were always a queen in waiting." Charity, who had once been whipped by a stepmother's tongue and forced to kneel for bread, walked through life with a crown that did not glitter but shone deeper, the crown of a heart that had been broken, healed, and made ready to give. The story that began with suffering ended with a soft, stubborn light. Life had turned her into a queen not by riches or power, but by the steady, brave goodness of a woman who chose to rise. What did you learn from this story? Kindly drop your thoughts in the comment. Thank you for watching. Remain blessed.